All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, time for another installment of Will This Thing Ever Run Again? So, I haven't made a video in a while, but it's not because I haven't been working. I've been steady on this rotisserie, finishing up what I thought was just a little bit to do left on them. Turned out to be quite a bit I had to still do on them, or at least time-consuming stuff, because I don't necessarily have the tools that would make it really easy. So, what I've been doing: welding a lot, drilling holes a lot. These are all done. These brackets, they're ready to mount up. Nothing's bolted down tight yet. They're just kind of on there. I think these, I showed off these anyways in the last video, I believe, but they're all done anyways, ready to bolt up, slide on. These rear brackets on the car, ready to roll. Already grade 8 hardware on them, I believe. Yeah, that's gold. Yep, so grade 8's on there. So, on to what I've been doing. I had to go borrow this monstrosity from my dad to drill the holes needed for these. That is a 7/8 bolt. That is a big drill bit. My little Craftsman about caught on fire trying to drill it. So, I drilled these holes through and through. This is what took forever to do pretty much, because if I had a big mill or a heavy duty, high powered drill bit, drill press or something, then this would have been a lot easier. Or, of course, if I had like a CNC plasma or something where I could actually plasma out the holes perfect, that would have been great too. But I don't have that fancy stuff, so I drilled all these by hand, and it took forever. It was a bitch. So, anyways, there are 7 holes in this inner tube that'll allow this jack to lift and this bolt to pin through to lock it in place. That'll prevent the bleed down on the jack tube if it does bleed down, which I'm sure it does. Almost every jack I've ever used, it slowly bleeds down over time. With enough weight on it at least. So, you notice there's no nut on there. That's because I bought the nut for it and ended up double stacking these to add more sleeving. So this is one thing that got done. Welded these on. Luckily for me, they don't sell this in the standard steel bolts or regular grade 1, whatever you want to call it, bolts. All they had was grade 8s. So I had to buy grade 8 bolts and drill out and burr out with the burr tool into a sleeve, because they also don't have big round tubing that would fit that. At least not that size. The only thing that would work would be metal conduit, and that's not enough sidewall strength, in my opinion, to hold that. So anyways, I drilled these out. I cut slots in the front plates. You can see the little bit of a bandsaw cut right here. I cut diagonal slots so the nuts could come all the way forward, flush with this plate, since I put this sleeve here. Now the sleeve, without that it would have been fine, because this slip piece on top would have kicked this all thread connecting, rod connector, whatever it's called, all thread nut, it would have kicked it out enough to where it wouldn't cant the rod too much and put a bind on it. But since I sleeved it to keep the inward outward play, I had to bring these nuts in, or else it would have been too much bind on it. So this is put on top for 2 reasons. One, it kicks this nut out further to space it for this plate, or in my case, this sleeve down here. And also to allow it to tilt, rock back and forth a little bit to also help prevent this from binding. So these as well are not tightened up. It's grade 8 nut and bolt, whatever, stainless, or not stainless, but regular steel washer and lock washer. I don't think that really matters all that much. They ran out of grade 8s in this length, so these are grade 5s. I'll swap them out later. So I did go with grade 8 washer on the front and lock washer, just because the fronts were burred out a little bit. You can see they're a little wallowed out. The backs are not, so I left it just a plain Jane washer on the back of these. On top of that, onto the other one, lock ring. I've welded this on. Same deal, same setup with the lifter rod, the sleeve, and so on. But I talked about this being the actual physical lock. But this, back up so you can see it. That is a lock ring set up so that this can rotate back and forth. And locks it in place pretty good. But that'll be just kind of a backup. I'll lock it in place with this when rotating the car, and then I'll come and snug these down. But that's where I'm at. Oh, and I think I drilled those holes too. They were a bitch as well. Because all these holes have to be drilled through and through. You can't drill one side and then drill the other side without a whole lot of measurement. And most of these tubing pieces were cut with a bandsaw, so they're not square perfect, so your measurements aren't necessarily perfect either. So I just drilled through and through, which did a number on my bits. As you can see, my monstrosity bit here is fill focus. Yeah, it's seen better days. It is 8 to hell and back. Funny enough, the tip, which you probably won't focus on, let me see if I can. Yeah, the tip though, still nice and sharp. Cuts like a champ. And I've become a master sharpener because, yet again, it won't focus, but these tips of these 1/2-inch bits, I sharpened repeatedly, or had to keep sharpening because I either kept chipping them or I'd dull them just because I wasn't being patient enough and I wasn't hitting the air tool on them to cool them, and I was keeping oil on them, but even with the oil, it just wasn't cooling them fast enough. So I sharpened them a lot and they cut like a champ. I think they cut better than they did when I bought them. But anyways, I'm going over to eat some crabs. So this thing will have to get mounted up later. Today's Sunday, work tomorrow. Maybe this week sometime I'll mount it up and at least get it bolted in place. I don't know if I'll start lifting it. I think I'm gonna try to get it at least lifted off of this body cart so I can get it taken apart and put out of the way. I really don't know where I'm gonna put all these pieces yet. But yeah, I need to get rid of them or get them taken down and moved out of the way. Hopefully I can just stack them up along the wall and get them out of the way. But anyways, rotisseries are done. So tune in next time for this thing coming up in the air.